Retro Rock plays everything.
Hello ladies and germs, today we are going to go through my entire Colecovision collection. Well, if there's doubles of things, I'm not going to show you the duplicate of it, but for the most part, my complete Colecovision collection. Not a whole lot to say about the Colecovision, because if you're watching this, you probably know quite a bit about it. Of course, it was made by the Connecticut Leather Company back in 1982 to compete with the Atari 2600, and it did so pretty well. But importantly to me, my personal history with it is my friend from across the street, actually on the other side of my block, Chris, had one of these and incessantly made fun of me for having the far inferior Atari 2600, at least graphically, and of course I poked fun back by pointing out how crappy the controls were. Speaking of the controls, if you're looking for one of these, make sure the controller works. They are prone to failure. However, in most cases, in fact, every case, I have found that I'm able to clean them up and get them going again. Although occasionally the chips inside the Colecovision go out, there's problems with the video, etc. Another note about these things, they use a Z80 processor, which is the same thing used in the SG-1000, and that's what made the Dina 2-in-1 possible, which I'm going to show you in a minute, which is part of my Colecovision collection. Alright, let's get going. So here is the second item for my Colecovision collection. It's the Dina 2-in-1 by Telegames, arguably. Really, it's made by the big corporation Taiwan, but it was sold here as the Telegames, and it wasn't sold as a 2-in-1 either in the US because I think they only had licensing for the Colecovision. This was released back in 1986. You don't see a lot of these. They were primarily a mail order item, and then back in, I think it was 1994, 1996, the rest of the remaining stock was wiped out in a tornado. One of the reasons you don't see these real often is because they are super cheaply made. Really super cheaply made, and they tend to break a whole lot and have a lot of problems. This particular one is working perfectly, largely because I put heat sinks on it, and then number two, I did put a composite out into it because it can run right off of the chip. So, interesting thing about this is it also runs Sega SG-1000 games, which is why the controllers are very similar to a Sega Master System, if you've seen those controllers. In fact, it looks a lot like an SG-1000. Will run the games. That's what this was for. It was never actually advertised as that. Nowhere on the box. Weird, right? Alright, so there goes the Dina. By the way, I do have a video that goes more in depth into this system and its problems. You can watch that. I'll try and link it down below or put it in one of those little info bubbles. Colecovision expansion number 1, which allows you to run 2600 games. First, you open the expansion port if yours opens, like mine. That's a good joke for you people who own multiple Colecovisions. They often don't open. Plug this expansion port in. Plug in an Atari 2600 controller in the front here. Oh goodness. There we go. Plug in a game, and boom! Now you have world's most expensive Atari 2600. Pretty cool expansion though, I suppose. If your parents said, well, you already have a better game system, then you could just say, well, yeah, but this is just an expansion. Meet the roller controller, packaged with Slither. It's huge, man. This is a large freaking controller. Basically adds a trackball, as you can see, to the Colecovision. Kind of a pain to hook up. You basically hook up these in lieu of controllers number 1 and 2. Then you take this guy and you plug it into the back of the unit where the power cord goes, and plug the power cord into the back of this, like a pass-through. Also has 2 spaces for controllers, here and on the other side, and you can plug them in right there. Bravo. And here we have the Colecovision Super Action Controller. This is an official Coleco controller. Has a pistol grip on it, 4 buttons on the bottom, and a complete keypad on top. It also has this lovely little roller diddly. And a real joystick, which makes this one of the better ColecoVision devices to control with. It's really not that bad. It is kind of creaky though, so something to note on this one. There weren't a lot of games that were made specifically for it. There was Rocky, Super Action Football, Super Action Baseball, I think there was. And there was another one. There was, oh yeah, Frontline. Frontline was the other one that plays with this. And Frontline is pretty cool to play with this. That said, regular games can play with it as well, so definitely a worthwhile addition to any ColecoVision collection. Neato, huh? It's really too close up. There you go. Here we have the Champ Keypad controller adapter. This is a way to get your Atari 2600 or 7800 controllers, or indeed, I believe the Sega Master System controllers adapted over to your ColecoVision. It had an early production problem where some of them would not pass the second button, so if you had a 2-button game and a 2-button controller, you know, like the 7800 controller, it wouldn't actually pass the second controller's controls over. That's kind of annoying. Another point to make is that this isn't always necessary because many times you can just plug those controllers directly into the ColecoVision and have them work. They just don't have this keypad. So this is only useful in games where you need the first keypad to play it. But still a neat little museum piece nonetheless. Basically, the Atari controller plugged into there. Here we have a neat little gadget. This is a mod kit for the ColecoVision. This will allow it to have composite out on it. It's a pretty simple process on the ColecoVision. Actually, the most painful part of it is getting the cover off your Coleco, because that can be kind of a pain without messing up the decal. Not too bad though, and definitely not impossible. But nice little mod to do on your Coleco. I'll be doing this one pretty soon. I've already done a similar mod on my Dina 2-in-1, which I think I mentioned already. Here we have the ColecoVision 192-in-1 Multicart. Actually, I'm not going to bother to unbag it. I don't actually use it really that often, but how it works is you flip these dip switches up here. I've got a video dedicated to this if you want to know more about it. I'll put a link down below. But basically, it's got most of the ColecoVision games on it that were ever produced, so it's a nice addition to my collection. Again, I don't use it that often because it's pretty cheap to collect ColecoVision games, to be honest with you. And now for the games. Mr. Do, which is quite a bit like Dig Dug, but in my opinion, a better game. Neo Mr. Do is even better than that. We got Buck Rogers. I haven't played this one yet. I did play it when I was a kid though. Loved it a lot. It's a shooter. Pretty nice. Carnival. Kind of their answer to Space Invaders. Or Galaga. It's really good though. It's another one of those really good games. Cosmic Avenger. Almost everybody has this game. It's a bit like Defender. It is also one of the better games on the platform. I really like this and spent a lot of time with it when I was a kid. Frontline, probably the only decent home version of Frontline that there is. Donkey Kong, yet again, a great conversion of Donkey Kong for the ColecoVision. Isn't it weird seeing like Nintendo games on other platforms? Not used to that anymore. It's weird seeing it on a phone, you know? Time Pilot. Spent a lot of time with this game when I was a kid, too, at the arcade. Space Fury, kind of a scary little game. Creeps me out. Zaxxon, I mention this every time, but the same guy who did the Dungeon board game did some of the coding for that. Looping, another game I really loved. My friend Chris had this one, and I played the living heck out of it. I'd stay up all night playing it. Really good little plane shooting game. Has those weird controls where you basically, you know, loop the plane around. They were actually somewhat common at that time. I mean, Atari and computer games had that kind of control mechanic, but it was neat seeing it on this console. Slither, which is essentially that Atari Soft game, Centipede. Took me a second. Space Panic. I haven't played this yet. Actually, I might have in a demo, but I do not remember it very well. Ladybug, kind of a Pac-Man-ish game. And pretty good as well. Smurf. It's a platformer with Smurfs. This was amazing. This blew me away when I first saw it. Could not believe how great the graphics were on it. It's kind of funny because now they're kind of you know, but in the time they were great. Megarace, another great game on the ColecoVision. Love that one. Subrock I have not played yet. At least, not that I recall. Cubert, which is the color-changing block game. I'm going to guess most of you know what this is, what they are. Victory. I have like 3 or 4 copies of this and have not tried it yet. And it was a classic. I remember it being a big deal when it came out, like on the Commodore 64, or I can't remember. It was released on several platforms though. Mousetrap. I think this is the only one that I actually have the inserts for. And finally, Turbo, which I totally need the controller for. This is a great home port of this game. And I really, really want to get the controller for it. So that's one of the things I want to pick up. And speaking of that, that is pretty much all I have to show you. That said, if there's anything you think I should add to my collection, let me know in the comments down below. And I want to thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this, give me a thumbs up and subscribe for more. And I will see you in a couple days. Bye.
Retro Rocks Gaming Videos.